Your child's cell phone may no longer be accessible during the school day, as Governor Kathy Hochul is proposing a distraction-free school initiative.
She's been talking about this a lot. Starting next school year, students would be required to disconnect from their devices during school hours. CBS 6's Tom Eschen is at the governor's address today. He's spoken with students about this proposal. So, Tom, what are people saying?
Well, we'll start with the governor, who made her pitch just a little bit farther down that hallway behind me earlier today. She said, as you know, she went across the state to pitch this, to learn about this and what people were talking about when it comes to teachers, students, and parents, saying that 75% of the teachers that were polled said that they're trying to teach algebra, geography, but instead competing with TikTok, Snapchat, or even text messages. So now the governor using funding to help districts implement this cell phone ban.
Every student will be required to disconnect from their devices during the school hours, bell to bell. That means during class, at lunch, in the hallways. Our kids will finally be freed from the endless disruptions of social media and all the mental health pressures that come from it.
Governor Hochul says school districts will have flexibility in how they implement it, and exceptions will be carved out for students with different needs. Republicans have given support to the idea, but like the rest of the budget, questioning the cost, $13.2 million to help facilitate implementation.
Like, we just can't give the schools enough money in the state of New York. We can't give them enough, whatever we do. So we're going to make the decision for them and give them money to implement it.
Now, back in October, I had a chance to ask students about this potential. Here's what they said.
My school, actually, we have yonder pouches, so we have to lock them up every morning. If something were to ever happen, like, I wouldn't want to be emailing my mom on my Chromebook like that. And personally, I don't put my phone in the pouch just because of that.
I've said to my parents, if our school made us lock them up, I would not lock it up. I wouldn't. Personally, I do not feel in this day and age we live in a society that's safe enough to hand over a cell phone.
In my opinion, I wish it wasn't a thing. I think that I can hold myself accountable, but I know most people can't, and phones are a big problem.
Now, you ask about those costs and what those millions of dollars be going to, likely pouches or lockers, whatever that school would need to be able to lock those devices up. As for the school funding as a whole here this year, unlike last year, no cuts have been proposed at this point. Everyone would get as much as they did last year, a 2% increase across the board, actually, and also using a new data, census data from 2020 instead of prior years, which it has been used to help fund the rest of the school districts across the state. Back to you guys.
All right, Tom, you know, everybody else is talking about it. What did the governor have to say today about the incoming federal administration? Did she talk about it?
She sure did, and I mentioned last week during the State of the States, not something she brought up. She brought it up quite a bit today, was asked about it quite a bit today, any policies or even money-wise, financially, what she would do in the case of federal cuts. And she said this budget, an example of just what a state can do at the end of the day, despite those cuts, you could just say that. But birthright citizenship, something that you might have heard about after last night, Donald Trump making steps to revoke that 14th Amendment, making changes to birthright citizenship. Governor Hochul releasing a statement about that last night, saying she would take action to help protect New Yorkers that were born here in this state. She said one of those ways, of course, was, as you mentioned at the top, the Attorney General suing and saying it's not constitutional. Governor Hochul also adding this.
I'm going to stand up and protect their rights. So this is basically, you know, it's one of the very first things that come out of Washington, to literally deconstruct the United States Constitution and say that language that is actually in there does not matter. I would simply encourage the leaders in Washington to focus on what people actually ask for when they're electing you, which is you're going to help us with the cost of living, you're going to help us with all these other issues that I don't think this was top of mind for people. These are people that are literally born in the state of New York. They're born here. They don't know any other place. So this is an attack on our values.
We wanted to play that out completely because you could see that was one of the more emotional and the more thoughtful answers she gave throughout the Q&A, which lasted a little more than half an hour here over the course of this afternoon. Much more, as you know, that's going to come out about the budget here in the coming days. We'll have a reaction from lawmakers and more of the details as to what she is proposing here as now it gets into the hands of the legislature for their rebuttal. Reporting live here from the Capitol tonight, Tom Eschen, CBS 6 News.
Weeks and months of negotiation. Thank you very much, Tom. That executive order on birthright citizenship, just part of how President Donald Trump is spending his first full day in office, making waves.